You're not going to believe the story. So have you heard that polio is making a comeback in New York, right? The polio virus is spreading in New York. Here's what you need to know, says Science News. The news announced September 13th comes after the identification in July of a case of paralytic polio in an unvaccinated adult in Rockland County in New York. So he didn't get vaccinated, and that's what happens. You go, the virus is in nature and you get it, right? No. Public health officials found the case was caused by what's called a vaccine-derived polio virus. What? They got the virus from the vaccine? That's where the virus came from that infected these people? Is the answer, just may surprise you, yes. In response, New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency. Did you know there's a state of emergency in New York State over polio? There is. She said that on September 9th. And then she expanded access to the polio vaccination statewide. 3 of the counties where polio virus has been detected in wastewater, that's how they detect it, Rockland, Orange, and Sullivan, they have found polio vaccination rates of only around 60%. I thought you had to get polio vaccinated to go to frickin' school. I've been polio vaccinated. What the frick? The virus has also turned up in New York City and Nassau County. While most people, did you know this? That most people infected with polio don't have any symptoms? Did you know that? I didn't know that. I thought you got polio, that's it. You're done. No, most of the people who get infected with polio don't have symptoms. What? Some might feel like they have the flu with fever, fatigue, or a sore throat. In rare cases, the virus can cause permanent paralysis, and the disease can turn deadly if that paralysis hits the muscles that control breathing or swallowing. Anyone unvaccinated is at risk of paralytic polio if they get infected. But wait. So widespread vaccination efforts helped eliminate wild polio. Why? They're calling it wild polio virus. That's what they're calling it, wild. So they said they eradicated it, helped eliminate it from the United States in 1979, but public health officials are still working toward eradicating polio globally. The news worries about polio in the United States are driven by vaccine-derived versions of the virus spreading in areas with low vaccination. So it's not the wild virus that we already eliminated. It's the vaccine-derived virus. What the effing F? Hang on. Hold on. So there are 2 types of polio vaccines. There's the kind you get in the shot in the arm. That's the kind we use in the United States. And then there's the kind that's you get a drop in it's oral. Like in a liquid form. So, and both those viruses give you protection from wild polio virus and from vaccine-derived polio virus. What? So they used to give both those vaccines, the liquid one and the shot in the arm one, up in the United States up until the year 2000. But ever since then, only the shot in the United States. The shot it's the old type B vaccine we all know. It's the inactivated vaccine given as part of a routine childhood vaccinations in the United States. It's made using polio virus that has been killed. So the vaccine that I got to kill the shot in the arm, it's made from a killed virus. The virus is dead, and it's stripped of its ability to cause disease. Kids receive a total of 4 shots. The inactivated vaccine protects against paralysis. The oral vaccine, still used in many countries, is what they call an attenuated vaccine. That means it was made with live but weakened polio virus. What? Why in the effing F would you ever effing do that? But they're doing it. You know why they're doing it? Because it's cheaper and easier. What are vaccine-derived polio viruses? So what is that? These viruses are related to the oral vaccine. Since the viruses used in the vaccine can replicate, so if you use the oral vaccine, those viruses can replicate. They're not dead. We don't use those vaccines in the United States anymore. I wonder why. But they use them around the world. So those viruses that are in the liquid oral vaccine, they can replicate and they can spread. But according to the Science News, they're too weakened to cause serious disease. So do they mean it can still cause disease, but just not serious disease? That's how I read that. So the virus that people are getting in New York State, it's coming from according to this, related to the oral vaccine. It's not a wild virus. But it's not strong enough to cause serious disease. The problem comes when an attenuated virus from the oral vaccine spreads among too many people. What? And regains its ability to cause paralysis. Because it can replicate, it will evolve. So the vaccine is mutating. So that's what that means. Evolve. Mutate. Is that what that means? In a community with low or no vaccination against polio, such vaccine-derived polio virus can cause disease. That's not only because that vaccine is inexpensive. So that's why they're using it. Because it's inexpensive and easy to use in low and middle income countries. They're not using it in rich countries. You motherfuckers. But also because studies suggest it better protects the gut, the part of the body where the virus grows. Well, then why wouldn't you use it in rich countries? If that's really the truth, then you would use it in rich countries, you effing liars. The more protected the gut, the better the chances of reducing transmission and stopping an outbreak. That might be true. But if that's true, then you would want to use that everywhere. Paralysis from poliovirus is rare, affecting around 1 out of every 200 people who are infected. So the single I didn't know that either. I thought if you got polio, you got polio. But no, 199 people out of 200 who got polio did not get paralysis from it. I didn't know that. So the single paralytic case identified in July in New York was already a hint that there may have been hundreds of other infections.
Well, that's great.
The virus has since been detected in wastewater samples from as early as May. The virus's continued presence in wastewater suggests people are still getting infected and passing it on to others. Still, for years, there haven't been any cases of polio in the United States, and we've largely had immunity from the inactivated vaccine, he says. I'm not sounding the alarm bells. Well, they instituted a state of emergency in New York State. So, but this guy's saying no bell. Let me bring in Jackson Hinkle. Jackson, are you vaccinated for polio? None of my business. HIPAA laws. You don't have to say anything.
I think I am. I hope so. I should be. Well, okay. So I looked this up. The reason why there's low vaccination, and New York actually has one of the lowest vaccination rates for polio in the United States. But the reason why that there are low vaccination rates for polio,
because they're all hippies in New York?
I don't know. They said that certain states have more lax laws surrounding polio vaccination required for school. Sometimes adults forget to complete the polio vaccinations. because you have to get multiple. You have to get like 3 or 4 of them.
4.
Yeah. So that, and then you also have kids that don't go to classrooms sometimes. So those reasons contribute to it. And I was shocked by that. I was also shocked by that. Okay, and the other thing about it being in the sewage wastewater, that makes me think about COVID too, and think back to when we saw those reports of COVID-19 being in like Spanish and Italian wastewater prior to the quote-unquote point of outbreak in Wuhan.
So now you know, boy, that was really, that my head spun around metaphorically when I read this. I did not know that they use a weakened virus, not a dead virus, in their vaccine. That sounds to me crazy. And maybe that, and there's got to be a reason why they don't use that vaccine in rich countries. They only use it in poor countries.
So when they say that, you know, most of the time serious cases don't develop, are they referring to like paralytic cases?
That's what, I guess that's what they mean when they say it's not serious. I guess they're equating, if you get paralysis, that's serious. Yeah. And so if you take the polio vaccine, you're not going to get polio because it's a vaccine. And what used to be the definition of a vaccine was that a vaccine provided immunity to you from a virus. That's not that is not the definition anymore. They changed it because they have vaccines that don't do that anymore. That's why. When you think of a vaccine, you think, oh, I get a vaccine, I'm not going to get this disease. That is not the case anymore for this definition of what vaccines are. Totally different idea of what vaccines are now. Virginia Beach, Richmond, Arlington, San Jose, Miami, West Palm Beach. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member while you're there.